All right, so we're going to be doing a bonus video. This is a members first video. I'm going to be doing some select videos for members first, and this is going to be something that I'm going to be doing on a weekly basis. We're going to be doing various tier lists. Today, we're going to be looking at classic Genesis games tier list. This has all kinds of different games, and we're going to be ranking them. If I have not played it, I'm just going to put it in the never played section. That will include if I didn't play it for more than a few minutes. Like if I played it for a few minutes just to see what it's about, I'll still consider it never played because it wouldn't really be fair to judge the game at that point, right? So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these games here. We're going to name them off real quick. Shinobi 3, Shining Force 2, Zero Wing, Strider, Altered Beast, Alien Soldier, Alien Storm, Alicia Dragoon, Beyond Oasis, Castlevania Bloodlines, Columns, Comic Zone, Contra Hardcore, Dynamite Heady, Earthworm Jim, Echo the Dolphin, Golden Axe 2, Gunstar Heroes, Musha, Phantasy Star 4, Phantasy Star 3, Phantasy Star 2. I can't tell what that is. It's like in Japanese, so we'll probably just put that as never played because I don't even know. Ristar, Rocket Knight Adventures, Sonic and Knuckles, Right, Light Crusader, Shining Force, which is kind of weird that they had Shining Force 2. I don't know why they wouldn't have put those together, but whatever. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Sonic Spinball, Sonic CD, which is a Sega CD game, so probably technically shouldn't be on this list, but whatever. We'll say that's Sonic and Knuckles, just for consistency's sake, since it's Genesis specifically. Streets of Rage 2, Space Harrier 2, Super, I can't read that, so that's probably another one of those. Sword of Vermilion, Target Earth, Revenge of Shinobi, Thunder Force 2, and Toe Jam and Earl. Okay, so I'm going to mark down the ones that I've never played real quick here. Never played Toe Jam and Earl. I've heard good things. I actually probably would like it because I'm a big fan of roguelikes, and it's actually apparently a roguelike, which is very unusual for that era. There was also a Fatal Labyrinth, which was a roguelike. That's not on this list, obviously. We're going to mark this one down, of course. I don't think I ever played Target Earth. Sounds familiar, but I don't think I actually played it. I've only really dabbled in the Shining Force games. Like I played it a little bit. I really want to play them because I'm a big fan of strategy RPGs and seems like right up my alley. That will mark that one. Oh, Sonic and Knuckles is there. Okay, well I guess Sonic CD can. Again, they screwed up the ordering of the list here. Go figure. Let's see what else. Yeah, I've played all these for sure. I've never really spent much time at Earthworm Jim. Confession time. I know, terrible. I played like for a few minutes. That's it. I really should just play it though. Let's see. No, yeah, I did play Dynamite Heady for like 15 minutes, but I'm still going to put it on that just to be safe. And Beyond Oasis. Okay, so that's going to knock all those out. I know I'm such a scrub. There's like literally like 9 games on this list of like 30 something games that I haven't played. That's terrible. But, well, I guess we'll check some of those out sometime. I know at least a couple of these are on the Sega Genesis collection. I have all the ways to play them, so maybe we'll do that for a Throwback Thursday. We'll play some Sega Genesis. Maybe this next Thursday. But this Thursday, which would have already happened if you're not a member, we did end up playing Soul Calibur 4 on the Xbox 360. So every Thursday I play classic games. I know some people will be like, that's not really classic. That game came out 18 years ago. We have to start thinking about terms of actual years. But let's get right into it. Okay. Starting off very strong here with Shinobi 3. Arguably, I don't know if I want to spoil the awesome category already, but I mean, I think Shinobi 3 definitely qualifies. It is one of the most impressive games on the Sega Genesis. in terms of gameplay, in terms of graphics, in terms of music. Just a really well balanced, well polished game. There's really not hardly anything wrong with Shinobi 3 at all. You know, it's got so much awesome action. Um, it's got to be on the awesome tier. I don't know where else to put it. Now, I will limit myself here because we have, let's see, out of these games, I'm going to make it to where only 6 games can be in the awesome tier. So if I end up getting to a point where there's more than that, then we will rearrange from there. Okay. Zero Wing. Okay. Zero Wing, you know, Zero Wing. Zero Wing. Everybody knows the meme. All your base art belong to us. All that good stuff, right? It's a decent shmup. It's okay. You know, like there's definitely better shmups on the Genesis. There's worse shmups. It's not in the sucked category. I don't know if I'd say it's a but I put good / because I had to, you know, go off the 5 categories. I wanted to do 5. I guess I could have just not put any that never played on the list. I guess that would have worked too, but I don't know. It's a fine game. Nothing wrong with Zero Wing at all. Okay. Now Strider. Strider was a very early Genesis game, and it was a baller. It really was. It was not quite the awesome territory, but a very good arcade conversion. It was like one of the first console games that we had that was actually like very close to the arcade version. Obviously, the arcade version did have better graphics and whatnot to some degree. But the Genesis did a really good job with that particular game. And, you know, it gave us the full on experience. This was not like the NES Strider, which I'm sorry, guys. The NES Strider sucked. That is definitely a sucked category. I'm a huge proponent of Capcom, especially during the NES era. They done goofed on Strider for the NES. Okay. It's just a fact. That game is a broken mess. But this is all about Sega Genesis here. And the Sega Genesis version of Strider, which is based on the arcade version, which was a great arcade game, was also a great Genesis game. So, move on. Altered Beast. Okay, I'm really tempted to put this in the sucked category, but I'll probably put it in the category. It doesn't actually suck. Again, it's a great conversion of the arcade game. Obviously, the arcade game is better, but it was one of those early games. In fact, it was the pack-in title for the first Genesis systems that were sold that showed, hey, you can actually get arcade experiences at home, which I guess, yeah, I got technically with the NES with like Donkey Kong and all that crap, right? But I mean, we're talking about like this was like legit way ahead of what the 8-bit systems were in conjunction with the arcade systems at the time. Like, you know, it was very close. And it had the voice samples. You had the 2-player simultaneous gameplay and all this stuff. But the gameplay is pretty basic. It's not anything all that great. I mean, I will give it a concession. It was the very early era of the beat 'em up genre. So, you know, things were going to be what they were going to be, right? But we're going to mark that in the good / category. Okay. Alien Soldier. This one, it's tough because I really love Treasure. I am a big fan of their games. Alien Soldier wasn't quite as good as another game we're going to be getting to here shortly, guys. But it was a really good game, without a doubt. But I don't know if it classifies as great. The way the controls work in that game, where you had like the different like weapon switching and stuff like that, it was a little clunky, you know. And I don't know, the game just kind of demanded a little too much, I think, of the 3-button Genesis controller. And I don't think this game, I don't know, like it just felt like it missed the mark a little bit. But it was fine. It was fine for what it was. Okay, so we all got Alien Storm. I'm gonna put that on the good / tier as well. It's not a particularly bad game or anything like that, you know. I do like certain aspects of it. I do like how it has kind of like that retro sci-fi aesthetic kind of harkens back to like some of the, early like 1950s, 1960s sci-fi movies and stuff like that. But it was like, you're using like the weapons were cool, of course, you got the cool weapons and things like that. But the gameplay was kind of in that genre. Not a huge fan, but it's not bad. It's definitely a fun one to pop in every once in a while. Oh, and actually, what? I never played Alicia Draguni either. Whoops. I forgot to. I thought I did, but maybe I played a few minutes of it. So we're just gonna slide that to never played real quick. Okay, Castlevania Bloodlines. This one's a pretty solid one, guys. Is it as good as Super Castlevania 4? In my opinion, I don't know. It's tough to say. It's almost a toss up. I didn't play either of those games until much later in life. I kind of feel like maybe it's because I favored the Super Nintendo a little more back in the day over the Genesis. I probably would still give the edge to Super Castlevania 4, but Bloodlines is obviously a killer game. Very challenging. It was cool how you had the two different characters to play as. Did have, of course, Castlevania 3 where you can play different characters in that. But the characters, they played differently, like the weapon styles and stuff like that. It definitely offered a different experience to check out the game. So a lot of replay value with that. Also, the more dark setting, you actually had a little bit of blood in it, unlike the other ones, albeit, but yeah, whatever. Columns. Okay, Columns is a good game. I mean, it's a pretty fun puzzle game. That was actually one of the first Genesis games I ever got a chance to play, along with Altered Beast. Another one we're going to be talking about, of course, Golden Axe. One of the first Genesis games I got a chance to play. My buddy Chris, his family decided to trade in their NES, and they got a Sega Genesis. And I was unbeknownst to that because I rented Castlevania 3 on the NES. I was going to bring it over because we're both fans of Castlevania. Well, I guess he probably ended up playing Bloodlines, I'm sure, since he was a Genesis kid. Yeah, it was a pretty good puzzle game. It was like Tetris, different. I mean, it's pretty much about the same thing. I would probably say people like Tetris a little bit more, but I think Columns, it's pretty much you're matching the colors instead of having the lines or whatever, right? Pretty fun game, nothing particularly wrong with it. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Now, this one's going to be tough because I am a huge fan of Comic Zone. I want to put this in the awesome tier because I am that big of a fan of Comic Zone, but I don't know if it's actually going to survive the list. I'm going to put it on great for now. This is one of the most technically impressive games on the Genesis. The way they did the animation and stuff like that is just awesome. Which the only other game that would have really competed, but it's not even on this list, would have been Vector Man. I don't know why they didn't put that on there. Yeah, Comic Zone, I'm a huge fan. I just love the gameplay. It is a very hard game, no doubt. But I have legitimately beat Comic Zone. That's how much I played it back in the day. Rented it, played on emulators, stuff like that. And I did eventually beat it a few years ago. Now, I'm not sure if I could do that now. I definitely have to practice again. Because in addition to, obviously being very good with the mechanics of the game, there's also like, you have to know which panels to go into and stuff like that. Because you can actually get yourself screwed if you go the wrong direction and stuff like that. Because there is kind of like a little bit of a direction you go with it. But Comic Zone is super awesome. It might be promoted to awesome, but we're going to go through the list first just to see. Contra Hardcore, I'll probably get a little shit for it. I was not that impressed with Contra Hardcore. I'd probably put it around the same ranking as Alien Soldier, honestly. Like, there are some benefits to it, but I don't think it's as good of a Contra game as Bloodlines was of a Castlevania game. I think it's Contra 3 is a clear winner over Contra Hardcore. And I know that might be a controversial opinion, but I mean, it had better graphics. It had better music. It is a more balanced game. I think Hardcore was too hard, honestly. I know Contra games are supposed to be hard, but I don't know. Maybe I need to put more time into it. Now it's got some solid mechanics and stuff like that, but I don't know. It felt like a legitimate downgrade to Contra 3: The Alien Wars, and they could have did better. Like at least Bloodlines. Like if somebody was making a case between Bloodlines versus Super Castlevania 4, even though I do prefer Castlevania 4 a little bit more, it's not by like a huge margin. It is with Contra. Like I wouldn't get the argument of somebody saying hardcore is better than Contra 3. That wouldn't make any sense to me. Echo the Dolphin. Now, bear in mind, I probably don't understand the game. I think that's the case of most people, but unless you understand the game, it's going to be in the sucked category. It absolutely does not explain anything at all, and it's just very obscure. I really put some time in this game. I probably put in like 3 hours, and I barely got anywhere. Now, granted, I could have used YouTube walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff to really learn the game. But at that point, am I really playing the game, or am I just copying instructions off of somebody? If I have to do that, I can see looking up YouTube walkthroughs for little things here or there, but like for practically every single thing, come on, guys. Okay, Golden Axe. First instinct is to put it in the awesome tier. I think I have to put it in the great tier, which, by the way, you notice Streets of Rage 2 is on here, not the first one. Okay, so that's going to make things interesting. But I really want to put it in the awesome category. I don't know if I can quite yet. It's kind of the same situation as Comic Zone. This is likely the game I've played for the Genesis more than any other game. I've beat the living crap out of Golden Axe. I don't know if I did for sure, but I'm pretty sure I have beat the game without using continues. It's been a long time since I've done that, but I have done that. It's absolutely insane. Nowadays, I mean, I don't think I could do that, but I can easily go through the game with just what it gives you, in terms of like the normal lives and continues and stuff like that. No problem. I'm a big fan. And same with Golden Axe 2. Golden Axe 2. Another big fan of that. I don't have as much nostalgia for it because I didn't own it originally like I did Golden Axe, but I played the crap out of it nonetheless. My friend Zach, he had Golden Axe 2, and we played the heck out of that game for sure. Definitely some improvements in the gameplay speed and stuff like that. I kind of dig the graphical style of the first game actually a little bit more because it had like more of a gritty look. But Golden Axe 2 definitely played a little more smoothly, and I'm a huge fan of both of those games for sure. Gunstar Heroes. This one's automatically gonna be on the awesome tier. This might possibly be my favorite Sega Genesis game of all time. And you know how much I gushed about Contra 3? Well, you don't need Contra Hardcore when you got Gunstar Heroes, which is better than both of those games. Legitimately. This game is just absolutely nuts. I absolutely love how you can combine the different weapon styles, and you had the fixed versus free, which offer different gameplay experiences. It actually had that one stage where you roll the dice, and that's actually like randomly generated stuff, depending on your dice roll, like what kind of outcomes you get. Really cool and interesting boss fights, amazing graphics on the Genesis. The music is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, if there is a perfect Genesis game, it probably is Gunstar Heroes. I'm not kidding. This one, like, if I have to kick off Shinobi 3 or something like that, I'm not kicking off Gunstar Heroes. That's going to remain in this awesome tier for sure. Okay, Musha. This is a tough one. I'm a huge fan of Musha. I'm going to probably put it in the great category. I think it probably is the best Genesis shmup. I know that's kind of a simp take. I'm not a huge shmup guy, so forgive me for that. But Musha is absolutely a baller-ass game. Obviously the soundtrack is amazing. The gameplay is absolutely nuts. It is pretty tough, but there are tougher shmups at the same time. Like, I never beat Musha, but I can actually get a few stages in. And it's just an absolute blast to play. Like, it's a real joy to play. And, It definitely deserves the props for sure. I doubt it's gonna make it to the awesome tier just because I'm not the biggest shmup fan, but if I was as much of a shmup fan as I am of like an action platformer fan, maybe I would put it up around the same ranks as Gunstar Heroes, possibly. But yeah. Okay. Fantasy Star 4. That's probably going to be in the awesome tier most likely for me. I'm a huge fan of the Fantasy Star games, and this one was like the perfect send off to the classic Fantasy Star games. I'm a huge fan of the story that the game had. It was really deep, had a lot of interesting moments. The anime style cutscenes that they had through the game, the graphics, the music, everything was great. Pretty well balanced. I wish I had a little more of the hunter missions, like those little side quests you can do. It was kind of lacking on that. But really, that wasn't a common thing in RPGs back then. Most RPGs were very limited with their side quests and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Fantasy Star 4 for sure. Fantasy Star 3, I have to put that in the sucked category. Now, granted, I haven't put a ton of time in the game, but definitely they stepped it up hugely with Fantasy Star 4, and I consider it kind of a downgrade to Fantasy Star 2, which we'll get to our ranking with that in just a little while. Um, the way they did like the generation system, it was a cool idea. It was definitely under executed, under baked. Think I don't know. I don't think they knew exactly what they wanted to do with it. It could have been really awesome, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Fantasy Star 3, obviously. I'll put it above Echo the Dolphin, though. It's better than that, for sure. Okay. Fantasy Star 2. I'm going to probably put this on the lower tier of the great games. Like, it's definitely a very solid game. I'm a huge fan of the Fantasy Star franchise. Not so much 3, but the original, of course, Master System, amazing. 2 is really good. 4, of course, is my favorite. Fantasy Star Online, absolutely love playing that on the Dreamcast, the original Xbox. Huge, huge fan. Okay. Now, Ristar. This one is actually a very underrated game on the Genesis. Highly underrated platforming game. Really colorful. Great music, great level design. The arm mechanic is really cool. I probably wouldn't put it quite to the awesome, which I don't know why I did that, but yeah, Ristar, which actually when I did a live stream a little over a year ago, um, I got high and I was like gushing on this game. So I think I kind of like over exaggerated my opinions on it, but it's a really good game. I highly recommend you check out Ristar if you never tried it out. Rocket Knight Adventures. I'm gonna put this on the good slash category, but on the high tier. It's like almost great. Now, granted, I have to bear in mind this is not one I played back in the day, so I probably would have a greater appreciation if I had the nostalgia on top of it. It is definitely very colorful, very cartoony. It's a very nice looking game. The action's kind of cool. I think it's a little mechanically iffy, like it takes a lot of practice to actually get good with some of the certain techniques in the game. So it's not as easy going compared to some of those other games, but I still think it was a really good game. Like I said, it's almost on the great level, but I don't know if I can quite put it there. Okay, Sonic and Knuckles. Sonic and Knuckles would probably be in the great tier. I mean, the Sonic games, I think we all can kind of guess where we're going to be putting those guys. But yeah, it doesn't quite get to the awesome tier because you can tell that because I don't know if you guys knew this, but when Sega was making Sonic 3, it was such a massive project versus Sonic 2 that they were going to release just one full cartridge. But Sonic and Knuckles is actually the second half of Sonic 3. because Sega had to meet their deadlines and all that good stuff, and things were kind of like going crazy because it was a much bigger project than Sonic 2 or Sonic 1 obviously, and they had to get a new Sonic game out. So they split it up and they used this lock-on technology thing. They sold it as like some kind of big thing. You know what? I have to mark it down to a good slash because it was technically a scam, because they made it to where you had to own both games in order to access another component of Sonic 3 essentially. So it was kind of like technically a scam, like a DLC, if you will, before that was a thing. I mean, it was a really good game. It was cool to finally get to play as Knuckles. It was cool. You could put in Sonic 2 and play as Knuckles on Sonic 2, which was really sweet. And a lot of people don't know this, but you can put in the original Sonic the Hedgehog cartridge. It doesn't let you play Sonic and Knuckles, but it lets you play the mini game from Sonic 1, the one where it spins around and all that good stuff. You know, the Sonic mini game. You can just go right into it when you do that. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. But kind of scammy at the same time. You know, that's why I have to mark it down. Okay, Light Crusader. This is a pretty good isometric game. I'm probably going to put it on the good A category as well. Very cool visual style. Um, I really enjoy isometric games. They're not the greatest for platforming, and this game does rely on that a little too much, in my opinion, for that. But it's a pretty solid action RPG, which the Genesis didn't get a lot of for whatever reason. I understand Beyond Oasis is one too. I never really played that, but yeah. I do enjoy Light Crusader from what I've played of it. I never like beat it, but I put a few hours in. Okay, Sonic the Hedgehog, the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm gonna put that on the great tier. Um, Obviously, being the very first, they have improved the mechanics and all that good stuff since, but the level design is still phenomenal. The soundtrack is still phenomenal, even if they did improve some things in some of the later Sonic games. There's nothing wrong with the original Sonic game. It's a great game by its own right. We'll put it around the same level as Comic Zone, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I have these ranks like fully sorted out, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, guys. Um, but now we get to Sonic 2. This one is definitely going to be in the awesome tier. And I don't think that's going to be a particular surprise to people because it is an awesome game, obviously. Everybody loves good old Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But yeah. Good old Sonic the Hedgehog 2, man. What can you say? It was absolutely amazing that, you had the two-player mode, of course, where you can have Sonic and Knuckles. You had the split-screen race and all that good stuff, right? Everybody knows it now, but back then, people didn't know that in the regular game, the second player controller can control Tails. That was like not something that was like openly discussed. That wasn't like a thing they taglined or nothing like that. That was something players learned on their own. And that was really awesome that you were able to do that. And of course, it was great as well. Like, it's almost like Sega knew that the parents were like, okay, have your little kid brother or whatever play with you. But it's a single player game. And Sega, like, what if we can make it to where the kid brother could play with them? They were the ones that came up with that with Sonic 2. It was just a really brilliant idea. And I mean, it basically took everything that the original game did right and just did more of it and added new mechanics. You had the spin dash, of course, that was absolutely huge. Um, Probably the best level design in the history of the series. Just awesome stuff. Sonic 3. Sonic 3, I'm going to put that in the great category. Sonic 3 definitely stepped things up quite a bit, but it was obviously a little underbaked because Sega didn't get to do what they wanted to do with that originally. That's why they had to split it up and all that good stuff, right? Um, and there was a little bit of controversy with it, with the whole Michael Jackson music thing and all that good stuff. Um, but it was kind of weird because like I know they said that he definitely did music for it. I mean, if he did, it definitely was not his best work. I mean, the soundtrack I thought for Sonic 2 was better than Sonic 3, to be honest. Not that it was like bad or anything, but like I would think if you're having someone like Michael Jackson do the music, it would have been a little bit better than it was for Sonic 3. It was like B plus tier, the music for Sonic 3. Whereas like Sonic 2 was definitely A tier, no problem. So, but yeah, I digress. I don't know. Maybe that's why he didn't want to put his name on it. Maybe he was disappointed with the work he did on it. I guess it could be the case. I don't know. Sonic Spinball. I mean, let's be real, guys. It sucked. It was obviously a cash cow. Sega just wanted another Sonic game real quick. The animation, the frame animation is slow. The music was kind of shitty. Like it was kind of a painful experience to play, honestly. Not a bad idea for a video game, but it was obviously very undercooked. And I don't know, man. Like, even though I didn't really care for Altered Beast, it's still a better game than Sonic Spinball. So that's why it's not in the sucked category. But I digress. Okay. We've got Sonic CD. This one's kind of a weird one. There's things I like a lot about Sonic CD, but it is kind of confusing to play at the same time, where you have the past and future stuff and the maps change as a result of what you're doing there. It kind of adds a lot of complexity that I don't think is necessary in a Sonic game. And it also is lacking some of the mechanics that we got introduced to with Sonic 2, obviously, because in case you didn't know, it was a different development studio. They went in a completely different direction from what the Sonic 2 team was doing in terms of level designs and stuff like that. So it's still based a lot on Sonic 1 principles in terms of like the physics and stuff like that. Still a good game. It's tough to say because I mean, like, I don't know. Is it? Yeah, it is a good game. I do like Sonic CD a lot. It's definitely one of the best games on the Sega CD. That's not hard to argue at all. But yeah. Okay. Streets of Rage 2. Okay, here we go. Here we go, guys. We're going to have to put this in the awesome tier. And then we're going to have to make a tough choice at the end because I said there was going to be 6 games on that. But Streets of Rage 2 is going to be on there for sure. Now, I've definitely spent more time with Golden Axe, but this is probably the best beat 'em up on the Genesis, bar none. It has everything, guys. Absolutely awesome combat, a lot of cool moves, cool weapons, 4 different characters you can play as. The music is absolutely banging. I mean, I am surprised there has not been like a major rap or pop artist that has not sampled the music from Streets of Rage 2, at least that I'm aware of. They're absolutely insane because you guys are going to have like a hit song if you just sample this music from this game because it's just that freaking good. Um, if somebody just fucking went to a random dance club and just started, like the DJ started doing some Streets of Rage 2 tunes, man, they would be going nuts on the floor. I would think, right? But I don't know what can you say? I mean, Streets of Rage 2, it's the definitive beat 'em up on Genesis. And possibly the definitive beat 'em up of the 16-bit era. I possibly would put it above anything that the Super Nintendo had, like Turtles in Time or Final Fight. I mean, it's definitely better than Final Fight. Like, don't get me wrong, Final Fight's cool, but this just plays so much better. The music's so much better. Final Fight only has graphics over it, and graphics are great, but that's not everything. Okay. Space Harrier 2, I'll put this on the good tier. It's a pretty solid sequel to the original arcade version. It is a little choppy. I'm not a huge fan of the animation style. Like, I think the Genesis might have been a little underpowered for the game, but I think they still pulled it off pretty good. Um, and it looks good. It's a pretty solid port, but at the same time, it doesn't really do anything particularly all that new. It's just adding like new enemies and all that good stuff. I'm not a huge fan of it, guys. Let's see, Sword of Vermilion. I know, I know this is going to be controversial, but no, it sucked. Sorry, Sword of Vermilion sucked. Now, I didn't put in a crap ton of time, but this is not one of the top dog RPGs on the Genesis. Like, it had some interesting ideas, but like with the way you move around and then you have to go into the field view fights and stuff like that, really clunky. Um, yeah, it's an early Genesis game, but Phantasy Star 2 came out around the same time. It definitely was a much better looking game, even being an early Genesis RPG. I don't know. I just don't care for Sword of Vermilion. I'd probably put it slightly above Phantasy Star 3 still, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Okay. Revenge of Shinobi. So this is where we're going to have to get into a tough choice here, because I really do love Revenge of Shinobi nearly as much as Shinobi 3. But is it going to be in the awesome tier, or am I going to have to put in one of the Golden Axe games? It's so tough. It is so tough. I have so much nostalgia for both those games. I don't know. I'm probably going to go ahead and toss Golden Axe here. I'm going to have Shinobi 3 as like, it's almost on that top tier. It would be if I didn't set up a specific limitation, because if I didn't do that, there'd be like 10 games on there right now, guys. Musha would be on there, Golden Axe 2, Ristar or Comic Zone even would probably be on there. But I had to be very selective just to be fair for everything there. But yeah, it's not bad. Obviously, Revenge of Shinobi, especially if you play the OG versions when it still has all the copyright infringement, when you got to fight Godzilla and Batman and Spider-Man and Rambo. It was just nuts. Absolutely, But Shinobi 3 is a little bit better. It is a little bit better, so I'm going to give it the nod for sure on that. And then that leaves us with Thunder Force 2, which, I wouldn't say it sucked, but it's definitely on the lower tier for the good / category. It's not a bad game. It's a decent shooter, but, again, it's like more of it's like, why would I play that when I could play Musha? Or another one that's not listed here that I'm a huge fan of, Biohazard Battle. That's a good shmup right there. That's probably my second favorite on the Genesis, most likely. Especially since you could do 2-player co-op on that. That's not something you get very often in a shmup game. But yeah, Thunder Force 2, it's fine. It's just, I could take it or leave it. I kind of put it around the same ranking as Zero Wing. Like, it's just competent. It's not bad. There's going to be its fans, obviously, but I don't think it did anything like super special at the same time. So, all right. So that's going to be my tier list ranking. For the next Throwback Thursday, we're going to be choosing some Genesis games. You guys can vote. I'll pick out the top dogs on this list. We're not going to do Shining Force just because it's an RPG, like straight up RPG action. So between Toe Jam and Earl, Earthworm Jim, and we'll say Beyond Oasis, because that's more of a Zelda-ish one from my understanding. So it's not like a full-on RPG like the Shining Force games. That's gonna be the poll for Throwback Thursday, for the next Thursday, obviously. Toe Jam and Earl, Earthworm Jim, Beyond Oasis. You guys tell me which one I should play and actually put some real time into. And that's my Genesis tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed this. You can sound off in the comments, tell me how I'm wrong about Sword of Vermilion, or whatever, Contra Hardcore. I actually kind of shat on a lot more than I said. I mean, it's still good, but it's just, like I said, Contra 3, obviously. And then Gunstar Hero over both of those. So we don't even need to have that argument because the Genesis already has the superior action shooter. So, but if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out the most recent video that I did, of course, right above my head. And in the other corner, the algorithm's going to recommend something fire to you. I hope you enjoy it, of course. And, if you would, please consider subscribe and become a member so you can get early access to this stuff. But that's going to be the last line.